I think that I'm often attracted to kind of subcultural movements, and especially subcultural movements in cities, where I think you can have a couple dozen people where participate in a movement that actually gains a lot of traction, and I find that really fascinating. But also, as a geographer, these kind of tensions that you find between public and private space, and people wanting to gain more of a right to the city, a right to access the city and to participate in the city. All of that I find really fascinating, and it's something, it's a theme that you find cutting across all of these different kinds of activities: urban exploration, graffiti, parkour, skateboarding. It's all fascinating. But what was always clear to me during the course of this research is that there could never be any pretense at objective observation here. This is not a science experiment. Okay, in order to understand this community, I was going to need to do what they do, right? Becoming an urban explorer was not only a way of getting access to the community, which I never would have had if I had tried to approach them as an objective observer, but it was also a way of of doing research through the body, so that there was a sense of autoethnography here. That if I do urban exploration, I will then better understand what they're telling me in an interview when they say, oh, that feeling when you jump the fence and run from the security guard. And I can say, well, yes, I do, because I was there, I did it too. Now, I think that there's a lot of value, in particular in recognizing that, yes, this is subjective research. It's as much about me as it is about them, and being reflexive about that process, and being honest about it. My decisions and what I write and the talks I give, that's going to affect the community. So let's have a conversation with the community about what it is we want to accomplish. Part of the problem with ethnographic research is that you don't know what's going to happen. This is why you need an ethical structure that is flexible, where you can respond to situations as they come to the fore. And there were a number of times in this research where I had to back up and kind of reassess my situation and think, right, is this still ethical? Does this still make sense? And the other thing to say that was quite interesting is that it wasn't just with my researcher hat on that I was encountering ethics. I was also encountering a bit of pushback from the community on sort of what they thought was ethical about what we were doing. So there was a constant negotiation going on that I think is inevitable in this kind of research, and it's worth being honest about that. It's important that this research gets done, and we just need to think about the most sensible and ethical way to go about it, to get the results that we're looking for, or even the results that we weren't quite expecting, right? And at the same time, to not put our project participants in a vulnerable position, or ourselves, or lastly, the university. And I think it's right that it's in that order, right? I think our first obligation should be to our project participants, and lastly to the university, because the biggest benefit from doing this kind of research is obviously to the university. We need to keep that in mind. So they should shoulder more of the risk.